In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down the top 5 secrets to playing scratch golf. So if you guys haven't seen the first video already, Logan and I shot a video that I took you guys on the golf course and broke down all 5 aspects. And today we're going to be talking about topic number 1. So topic number 1 is going to be the number one barrier to entry that I find with playing scratch golf is going to be hitting it at least 260 yards off the tee.
Yeah, so I think right away you're going to have some people saying, oh, you don't need to do this, but they're probably the outliers rather than the rule of thumb. So why is it so important to hit it 260 plus?
Well, for starters, there are going to be exceptions to the rule for number 1, but it's not very frequent that happens. So if you're playing the correct tees, the barrier to entry is going to be at least 260, and the importance of hitting it at least 260 yards off the tee is to give yourself in and around shorter clubs into holes. So more often than not, most amateurs or at least students of mine that come to me, they're like, well, I can't get off the tee very well. I have a hard time hitting my long irons, but I'm pretty good inside of 150 yards. Right. I would say the average player that's in and around an 8 to 12 handicap is usually around that. And I'm like, okay, so my question to you is, what if I was to give you more opportunities inside of your comfortability zone?
Right, and I think the key takeaway there is probably, are you going to hit more greens? Which is, driving is the one stat that's going to fall into all the other stats that
Correct.
we need in order to break scratch golf. Are you going to have a better chance at hitting a green from 160 yards or 100 yards, right?
Correct. Yeah, so that's like the long, and even on the PGA Tour, you're going to find that the dispersion from like 250 yards away versus the dispersion of 150 yards away, it just progressively gets this like reverse cone effect.
Yeah.
Where we just get narrower and narrower and narrower. So if we just take that easy logical concept to understand, it's like, well, if I get it closer to the hole, not even off the tee, but if I just have less clubs into holes, I'm naturally not going to be able to curve it as much. And part of the reason for that is because of the loft we have on each club.
Yeah.
So the less loft we have, the more gear effect or the more spin is going to be created if we don't deliver the club correctly. And then the more loft, aka wedges or shorter clubs, mid irons, you're going to have less dispersion left and right.
It's the same as a putt. If you think of the green like the hole,
Correct.
Are you going to make more putts from 4 feet, or are you going to make more putts from 12 feet? So we're trying to get the ball off the tee to 4 feet. And if I think for any of you haters out there, let's think critically, like seriously, think about this for a second. The PGA Tour players, the shortest on tour is 270 average.
Correct.
The longest is 330. Pretty much every scratch golfer I know hits it well over 260.
Correct.
Are there exceptions? Not really. Even if I think of like the older guys that do it, like they're 60, 65, they're still hitting at 260 plus.
Yeah.
Probably all the guys that you've played professional tournaments with, guys playing college golf, like all these players can hit it over 260 yards. Right?
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, even probably pushing into that 300 like zone, like they're hitting it in and around 300 yards. And the reason we came up with 260, not that we came up with 2, but statistically speaking, it's in and around 260 for the average person, or for the average male, I should say. Shouldn't say average person. The average male is going to have to hit it at least 260 yards worth of carry, is because if the PGA Tour is on average flying it in and around, if they're 171 ball speed, in and around 280, 290 in the air, we're just subtracting about like maybe 15, 20 yards worth of for the average person to be scratched, because the average PGA Tour player is probably a +4, +5 more.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, if we can get you to hit it at least 260 off the tee, which is going to be in and around 103 miles an hour worth of club head speed, I would probably say.
Right.
Like most of the students that come to me, it's like we start probably in the high 90s or the low hundreds, and my goal in the first thing that we do is to initially get you to at least 110 miles an hour worth of club head speed minimum.
Yeah, and I think anyone looking at this, unless you have a severe maybe injury or like you're very high up there in age or something, pretty much every man is going to be able to swing. It doesn't matter how tall you are, or your strength obviously helps. But
yeah,
this is also the stat I think where 260 is a good goal, but we put 260 plus for a very good reason. Above that is just going to be even more of an advantage, right? You can always dial back what club you hit off the tee. You can always hit a 4-iron, you can always hit a hybrid, but you can't hit it further if you don't have that in the tank, right?
Correct. So, and part of the reason why the handicap system, like if you look at a scorecard, every tee you move back, the handicap progressively starts to go up, right? So, like as an example, I had a client just shoot 66 like last week.
Wow.
And we played from 6,200 yards. From 6,200 yards, he shot 66, and he's a 4 handicap. Not anymore, obviously.
Yeah.
But he's like the biggest difference in playing from that yardage, because he hits it in and around 260 to 265, maybe even a touch further, and the difference between him playing at 6,100 yards and then sometimes we'll tip it out and we'll play 7,100 yards and he won't break par. And it's like, well, he's in and around that 4 to 6 handicap from 7,100 yards. But if we move up 2 or 3 tee boxes to 61, now he's essentially basically a scratch golfer.
Right.
So it's like, if that doesn't give you a true indication of like exactly what distance does for you, I don't know what does.
Awesome, man. Well, let's talk about the next point in another video. Be sure to check out the next one, guys.
We'll see you for the next one.